All right, today is Sunday, March 19th, and this is lesson 8 out of 10. So we're getting close to the end. I planned it so that we could be through before the week before Easter. So I can't believe Easter's that soon, gonna be that soon. But welcome everybody to lesson 8. Please forgive me, I'm still having voice issues, but that's okay. Because I want you guys to all feel free to share and talk during this Bible study as well. So I'm going to share my screen. I have too many windows open. Here we go. Okay, so I know I'm screen sharing. Move this out of the way so I can start the slideshow. Okay, so we are on lesson 8, which I've called Be Transformed. So we're going to look a little bit at a little bit of a review. Our verse, why are you cast down, O my soul? We talked about what is my cast down and how did I get here? How bad do I want to get up? What am I willing to do to get up? And we talked about the first thing that we need to do is thirst. Craving God's presence and God's power like you would for water. And the second T was trust. Embrace his truth as my truth and believe he is trustworthy. So I want us to look at our homework from last week. Specifically, we're going to look at 1 John 3:18. And I put it on the screen because I wanted to have a couple of different versions written on the screen. I've got my Amplified right here. I've got the New King James on the screen. What other versions do we have in the room? You've got King James. You got King James. Have you got King James too, LaDonna?
I have 3 different ones. I have the ESV, and I got the New King James, and I have the NIV.
Okay, so if you want to grab the NIV or the first one you said, that would give us
English Standard.
English Standard, that'd be fine. Then we'd have a little bit of variety here. But we're going to look at 1 John chapter 3. We're going to start with verse 18, which says, my little children. Who's talking in this verse, by the way? No, not God. John. And which John? Because there are lots of Johns. John's a very common name. The disciple John, that's right. The disciple John is talking, and this is probably getting close to the end of his life. We know that John wrote the book of Revelation, so this is before the book of Revelation, but he was probably an old man. We know that John, of all the 12 disciples, he was the one who lived the longest. And as far as we know, John was the only one of the disciples that died of old age. All of the other disciples were martyred for the faith, killed, crucified for Christianity. So John lived the longest, and he would have been like an elder who, when you get to a certain age, you can call everybody little kids. Everybody's a little kid. If I go to the doctor and he's 30 years old, I'm like, man, he's just a kid. Because, but the older you get, the more everybody's a little kid. So when John says my little children, he's talking to all of us, no matter what age. He's not talking to little kids, but the Amplified says believers or dear ones is as little children. So it's like a term of endearment, my little children. Let us not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth. The Amplified says, let us not love merely in theory, with words or with tongue, giving lip service to compassion, but in action and in truth, in practice and in sincerity, because practical acts of love are more than words. You all have heard that. Your actions speak louder than words. That's what John's saying, is all your words are great, but if you don't have the action, it doesn't mean, yeah, it doesn't mean anything. So do you have any different words in yours?
Pretty much
Same
the
thing.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why I
then-
was laughing because I had written down, because you said to write, our observations,
Yes.
and I had written that actions speak louder than words.
That was your observation. Yeah, same observation. How about verse 19 and 20? And by this we know that we are of the truth. This is how we'll know that we are of the truth, and shall assure our hearts before him. That's the New King James. The Amplified says, by this we will know without any doubt that we are of the truth, and will assure our heart and quiet our conscience before him. I thought of this verse because the why are you cast down, O my soul, and why are you disquieted within me, as in made into an uproar. And this verse talks about quieting our conscience. And I also was looking at this one this week because one of the things we learned about trust is that it has a direct relation to truth and to truthfulness. So this is how we'll know without a doubt that we are of the truth, and our hearts can be quiet, our consciences quiet before him. And verse 20 is this amazing verse. For if our heart condemns us, God is greater than our hearts and knows all things. I just have to tell you, this verse was one of the verses that just like slapped me right up in the face, because all this time that I've been carrying around guilt and all the things that stupid, ignorant things I had ever done in my life, and I'm carrying all this guilt around. And it says, if our heart condemns us, God is greater than our hearts. Amplified says, whenever our heart convicts us in guilt, God is greater than our heart, and he knows all things. Nothing is hidden from him. And I just love that verse, because how many times is guilt one of those things that keeps us in our cast down, that grabs us and wraps it around us, and like, you ain't going nowhere because you're not worth it. Yeah.
He may have felt that some readers might begin to feel despair. He assures them that although our feeble attempts to honor, God is greater than one's self-awareness. And then when we condemn ourselves, then he lifts us up and tells us that our motives were right. So quit condemning yourself for what you do.
So verse 20, did you have anything that you wrote down on those verses, Adonna? Any observations?
No.
Verse 21 says, beloved, if our heart does not condemn us, we have confidence towards God. What that means is, if we're not convicted of guilt, it means we know, we have confidence that God has forgiven us. If we're carrying guilt around all the time, it's because we want to. Right? If we carry guilt around after we've asked for forgiveness, it means we wanted to carry that guilt around. Because if we don't carry that guilt around, it means we know we have confidence in God's ability to forgive. And when he forgives, he erases it. Like gone, justified, just as if it never happened. Verse 22 says, and whatever we ask, we receive from him because we keep his commandments and we do those things that are pleasing in his sight. Whatever we ask, we receive from him. The Amplified says, we receive for him whatever we ask because we carefully and consistently keep his commandments and do the things that are pleasing in his sight, habitually seeking to follow his plan for us. There's another word that we've been kind of using throughout this Bible study is habitually, making something a habit, habitually seeking to follow his plan. And then verse 23, and this is his commandment, that we should believe in the name of his son, Jesus Christ, and love one another as he gave us command. Believe with personal faith and confident trust in the name of his son, Jesus Christ, and that we unselfishly love and seek the best for one another. That's his commandment. That's what John says. This is what we have to do. And we talked about last time that, you know, the very first thing you have to do is know that you have that relationship with God. And we ask the questions. If I were to die today, if you were to die today, do you know for sure that you would go to heaven? And when you get there and God asks, why should I let you in? What will you say? And because that's the foundation. And it has to be because of the blood of Jesus Christ. So, verse 24, now he who keeps his commandments abides in him, and he, meaning Christ, in him. And by this we know that he abides in us by the Spirit whom he has given us. The Holy Spirit, that's right. The Amplified says, the one who habitually keeps his commandment, there's that habitually, obeying his word, following his precepts, abides, meaning I live. This is where I live. Not goes on vacation. It's not a hotel stay. It's not a temporary stay. When you abide somewhere, you live there. It's where you take your shoes off, where you make yourself at home. I abide there. And when I do that, and I stay with him, I stay close to him. I build, did you look at our notes from last time? I build those walls and I put up those bricks and I make sure that I've shored up that foundation. Because I'm living there and I'm staying there and he is staying with me. And we know this because he really, really abides in us by the Spirit whom he has given us. That's one of the reasons I just love those verses in 1 John. And I gave it to you guys in homework, but then I just had to review it again this week. So let's ask the question. Have you made any progress in your going up?
My casting down was trying to take care of everybody else and forgetting myself.
Mm-hmm.
So in renewing myself and my walk with God, I try not to be so condemning of other people, because in trying to make them what you want them to be, in a gentle way, we're condemning what they do, and that's not up to me. Mm-hmm. So I just have to show them the love of God and hope that they see it through me, and we won't both be wrong. Brother Dale says, we will both be right, but you know, mm-hmm. I love Pollyanna. I love being Pollyanna. I do not like, not that I don't like, that sounds condemning again. I don't know how to handle negativism on a daily 24/7 basis from someone. I can't believe that somebody can't find something positive about a day or a pain you know, and maybe God gives you the pain so you can grunt and somebody will feel sorry for you. I mean,
It doesn't work.
you know, I don't know, but he gives me so much. You know, it's why I can't not talk about it. I don't understand how people just sit there, you know, and I'm a Christian. Well, then say something about it.
There is. Yeah.
Yes.
You want to talk?
No, I just give my God that I don't forget. That I forgive my daughter. It becomes bad sometimes. So I forgive her.
How about you, Ladonna? How about you? Does your cast down feel any different?
Well, I think I finally figured out what it is.
Oh, good.
It's just, you mentioned it earlier too about yourself. It's always feeling guilty
Mhm.
about everything. Whether anything is my
Whether
fault
you
or
did
not.
anything or not, yeah.
Right, exactly. If I didn't, then I should have, and if I did, then I shouldn't have.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I've heard before where there is guilt, that's evidence that Satan's been there. Where there's guilt is evidence of Satan's.
If you'll dig deep back in your life, someone did a number on you and told you you were not worthy or you were always wrong. My mom had I mean, I couldn't say anything without it turning out to be a lie to her. I was just trying to make everything okay. Even back then, oh, y'all, we're in God's time. That's my Bible telling me it's time to read. I'm sorry. But, you know, you have to do that because my mother-in-law is a wonderful lady. But I told her, I said, somebody did a number on you because she doesn't think she's worthy. Everybody that calls and needs something, right, LaDonna, they call you. They want because they know you'll do it. But then in the long run, you're the one to be the bad guy. And that's how she is. So I told her, I said, who did a number on you? Because there's some good in there. You just need to think it is. So, you know, find out who did the number on you and forgive them.
Well, and we talked about that last time about the trust. Where was, I can't remember what the word was. Oh, you've got last about trust issues. People who have trust issues. We have trust issues because when someone has let us down or we felt betrayed or yeah. So so far in your progress of going up, have you learned anything about thirst? Miss Pat says she doesn't thirst enough. If she thirsted enough, she would look more. Mhm. Don't you know that there are people all over the place that are dehydrated, like from real water, because they forget to drink water. Nobody forgets to eat. I mean, at some point during the day, you have to eat something. But that's the way it is with our spirit. Our spirit, we have to feed our spirit. If we don't feed our spirit with God, it's going to get fed with something else. And if we don't thirst for God and crave him like a deer pants for the water, something else is going to satiate our thirst. And so what have you learned about trust? It's a learning experience. It's kind of a process. It takes a relationship to be able to trust. It takes a relationship. And a lot of times we don't trust because we don't have that good relationship. So is anybody doing anything differently than you did before we started this process of going up? Doing anything different?
No. I'm so
what God says. in His word.
Mhm. Look for truth.
Yes.
Mhm.
what He says in-
Yeah.
No, it's very emphatic.
It's not something that he lightly gives us, you
Mhm.
know. And like, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father but by me. Can't expect a preacher. You can't expect a friend. You have to go.
Mhm.
My God.
You have to go to the word and you have to go to the truth, because there are theologies and there are teachings that aren't in the Bible. Some of it we've learned from our hymn books. Some of it we've learned from just traditional things that have been passed down to us that might sound good, but if they're not truth from the word, then it can cause us to come to this place where we have a trust issue, because trust is directly related to truth. Okay, so today we're going to look at Romans chapter 12, because our third T after thirst and trust is transform. So we're going to look at Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. And we probably, most of us know this from memory. Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. LaDonna, you want to read it?
Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, in the English Standard, it
Mhm.
says, I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect.
I beseech you, I beg of you, present your bodies a living sacrifice. When I was studying this verse this week, that word sacrifice would have, there's a couple of ways that they would have heard that word. Whenever you bring the lamb to the temple, the lamb is the sacrifice. And then you've got, so sacrifice is a noun. We think of sacrifice as a verb, something that you do. And in this particular verse, when it says to present your body a living sacrifice, it's talking about the noun, the sacrifice, your body, a living sacrifice. Now, here's the other thing about sacrifice. When a sacrifice was brought to the temple and the lamb was killed, its sacrifice was over. Its purpose was done. But a living sacrifice goes on and on and on in our everyday life as a living sacrifice, like consistently every day, making that, being that sacrifice, not conformed to this world. And if y'all have seen the word picture for conformed is a hand in a glove. A glove by itself is just shapeless. I mean, it's just a shape, but it has, with nothing in it, it's just a glove. When you put your hand inside a glove, the glove conforms to your hand. It takes the shape of and the substance of your hand. So when it's saying do not be conformed to this world, it means you don't put yourself into the shape of this world, what's here, what's all around us, because we know, and part of the thing I did this week was chase a rabbit way over here about what this world is. This world, is the lust of the eyes and the pride of life and the lust of the flesh and all those things that are me-centric. All those things that's all about me. Selfish, it's a selfishness to be conformed to this world. Also, when you think about it, when you make an investment in a house, in a home, you're going to make an investment in a home. How much investment are you going to make in a rent house? If you're renting a house from somebody because you're building, you have a house that's being built. So right now you're living in a rent house. So how ridiculous is it to take all your extra money to improve the rent house that you're living in right now? That makes no sense, because you can get by with secondhand furniture and secondhand, curtains and, all that. You want to keep it clean and livable, but you're going to take all your effort and your financial resources and you're going to put it into the house that's being built, that you're going to because it's your permanent house. Lay up treasures in heaven, not on this earth. This is our temporary house. We just live here for 80, 90, 100 years. And then we get to go live in our permanent home. Why do we spend so much time and effort, focus on things that are just temporary? Just temporary. The right here and right now. Be transformed is when we're transformed, we are making ourselves into what we are purposed to be for eternity, for always. I had a guy in college one time that we had this little chorus and he would sing it, and it says, if I can sing, one day Jesus gonna call my name. On that day, I won't stay the same. I want to get so close to him that it's no big change on that day when Jesus calls my name. I want to get so close to him that it's no big change on the day when Jesus calls my name. And I thought, that's just impossible. Huh, what would it be like if I took the time to abide with him, so close to him, that when I get to heaven, nothing will be different. I'll be right with him. And so I want to be in the process of being transformed into what I am supposed to be. And y'all can't see this on the screen, but on the screen I have a caterpillar, because we all know what happens to a caterpillar, right? Now, in my research that I did this week, I found out that not all caterpillars become butterflies. Did you know that? Some caterpillars become moths. Okay, and a butterfly is not a caterpillar with wings. It's a completely different creature. It has the same DNA, but a completely different form. That was kind of fun. I had to read, like 4th grade science websites and stuff, but transform, the word transform in the Greek is metamorpho. Metamorpho, which is where we get our word for metamorphosis, which is what happens when a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. Now, the caterpillar is is what becomes from the egg. When butterflies lay eggs, they become caterpillars. And the caterpillars have to eat and grow and nourish and all that other stuff. And then they go and they find a spot that's the perfect spot to make a chrysalis. Am I saying that right? Yes. And in that chrysalis, they undergo a change.
That is still in the chrysalis form, do not break it off of its stem. break above it and below it. If you want to put it in a jar or something to see if you can keep it, because if you take it away from its food source or whatever that
Mhm.
is, it'll die. And we had one that grew and became a butterfly in a gallon jar
Aw.
at school. We went home one weekend and came back, and we had a monarch butterfly. Just like this picture. That used to be my favorite thing to draw, but it was awesome.
And it's such a cool thing.
Yeah.
Metamorpho or metamorphosis, or transform, is defined in the dictionary to change the form of, to change the shape or appearance, as a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly. It also means to change one substance into another substance, to transmute. And it gives the example. The sentence was, the alchemists sought to transform lead into gold. So they were trying to turn one substance into another substance. In theology, this is according to the dictionary, to transform is to change the natural disposition and temper of man from a state of enmity to God and his law into the image of God, or a disposition and temper conformed to the will of God. It's not a person that you gave a bath and give them nice looking clothes. You know how we say, oh, he dresses up nice. Not a dress, it's not being dressed up. It's a change from who we are in our natural sinful state into something completely different. It is becoming who you were created to be. As I was studying, I realized that, we've got thirst and trust and transformation. Thirst is a choice. We have to make a choice. We have to choose to thirst. Trust is a choice and a process. So we make the choice, but it's also a process of relationship, developing that relationship. We talked about that last time. Transformation is a process, because we will be changed depending on the infant stage. That's when you're in the infant stage, that's when you need the most support and nourishment, and an infant, needs someone else to take care of them, right? A lot of times we kind of like to stay in the baby stage because we want to go to church and let somebody else feed us.
Evolved from the baby stage, because these innocent children that have got to be, as you say, what we need is support and nourishment, and someone else who takes care of you determines what you're going to be when you get to the next stage.
Mhm.
Right, the preparation stage, because they prepare you for your adult life. And it's sad much has gone wrong.
It's one of the reasons that what we do with children in the home and in church, and the teaching that we give them, is so very important. We have to make sure that they are getting truth, that they're not just being entertained. Teaching, especially when for the young, you teach them those lessons as if their life depended on it, because it does. And if we teach them something that's not true, that's not truth, that's going to affect their development and their ability to trust. So we've got this infant stage, and then we have the preparation stage. So with insects, that's called the pupa stage, pupa. So for us, for you, your cast down stage could be your pupa stage. You might be in the pupa stage in your cast down phase. The place in your life that's preparing you to move up to the next phase. And sometimes this phase of cast down feels like, it seems like it's like a delay or a pit stop. But it takes real work to get through your cast down. It takes real work. Whenever a insect is in the pupa stage, they're not just taking a nap. Everything is being transformed. It's all happening within that pupa. So you don't, not everybody sees it, and it's protected from the outside, the things that would destroy it from the outside. It's in that pupa stage. And it's possible that in our cast down stage, that God may have placed us in that cast down spot, place, so that we can work it through.
I did not know that you couldn't help them out of the egg.
Mhm.
Oh, I kill two before. Yes, because when they have the egg and they start coming out, they pip a little hole
Mhm.
and they keep struggling and struggling. So I just thought I would help. And my grandmother told me really quick, you have to let them do that themselves because they dry out as it goes along. And if they don't succeed, then they will naturally die. But if you pull that little chick out, they're gone. Took me a while to figure that out.
Which is exactly what happens to a butterfly. If you, which is the very next slide here, for a butterfly, do you want to see that pretty picture? For a butterfly to come out of the chrysalis, it has to struggle. Because that struggle is what releases the hormones that's necessary to strengthen their wings and their body. So if you try and help a butterfly out of its chrysalis, it'll die because it won't be strong enough. It won't have the strength in its body to support, and it won't have the strength in its wings to be able to fly. And so once they come out of the chrysalis, they have to kind of dry out a little bit, and they'll start stretching those wings slowly, because every pump of those wings, it's pushing the stuff into the wings to make it stronger. So going up from your cast down, it is going to take effort. It's a process. Being transformed is a process. And the Holy Spirit gives you, it provides you what you need to strengthen you. So that when you get through this process, you're going to be strong enough to fulfill the purpose God intended for you. Because God gave us, when God allowed the cast down, He allowed it to strengthen us for some purpose that He has for us. Look at 2 Corinthians 5:17. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Ooh, that's 1 Corinthians. No wonder it didn't make any sense. You want to read it, Miss Pat?
Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new.
All things are new. Did you know that there is two different Greek words for the word new? One talks about the sense of renovation or repair. So, you make something new, like renovating a house, or, fixing your torn clothes so that you have, it's a refresher. It's a repair and fresh. The other new is talking about a fresh existence. So when we are transformed, we're not the old man renewed and refreshed. We're a brand new man or person with a new family, a new set of values, new motivations, and new goals. When we put on Christ, we are transformed. We go through this process of being transformed. So how often do you wish you could start over with a clean slate? Every day. Not go back in time or hit the reset button, but like you could reset knowing what you know now. Go back. Clean slate.
Well, I would love to.
Because then I would understand more what old people go through.
Yeah.
And when, because we all are going to go through that same thing, whether we like it or not. And when we say our grandmothers and our, great grandmothers were old and stuffy, it's because that's what they have evolved to in time. And if we could go backward, maybe we would do a lot of things different. I didn't realize that my mother married and moved into her mother-in-law's house and was never right about anything. And we lived with my grandmother, like I say, who we thought was God. She was our granny. But my mother, until I got married and got to that same state and realized that there was someone who loved her son more than I did as my husband, it's hard to make that gap. That's been one of my cast downs to try to get back up, is to realize that God put Jesus on the face. This is what I learned this week. God put Jesus on the face of the earth. He gave up his only son. Why should I expect my mother-in-law to give up her only son to me and step back and let somebody else take her place? That's a biggie, because she's not going to. And that's hard to understand until you have children. So you got to go way up here at the top and go backwards and come out a baby. Then the world will
All of it, huh? You had an epiphany. And did it hurt? No. So transforming is not magic. Okay. Not talking about, pulling a rabbit out of a hat. It's learning to abide in him every day and allowing him to change us into his image. We're going to look at one more verse in Romans chapter 8, 29 instead of 28. We all know Romans 8, 28. But we stop there. Verse 29 says, for those whom he foreknew, which would be all of us, mine says, and loved and chose beforehand, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his son, so that he would be the firstborn among many believers. We are destined, we are purposed to become in the image of Jesus. That's who we're supposed to be like. That's what we're supposed to, when we finish the pupa stage. That's why it's a process. And that's why we have to be transformed, because in our old man and in our sinful nature, we can't be like Jesus. We have to be made new. We have to be transformed. Now, next week, we're going to talk about the SMART steps, the SMART goals to get to transformation. So if I thought this week was hard, and I thought last week trying to figure out SMART goals for trusting was hard, yeah, we better watch out. So are you ready for some homework? I'm gonna leave this up on the thing for a bit to help you, LaDonna,
Thank you.
because it's kind of long. Because I've got 4 different characters, and I gave you some Bible verses. You're going to contrast the main character of Exodus 4, 1, 10, and 13 with the same character in Exodus 14, 13, and 14. And you're going to talk about, I want you to think about what happened to make a difference in that character. Okay. Your second character is, I'm not telling you who they are. I want you to find out. Judges chapter 6, 11 through 15. And Judges chapter 7, 9 through 15. The same character. What happened that made a difference? You might get to, read some of the chapters in between to find out what happened if you don't know what happened to them. And then there's the character in Matthew 26, 69 through 75. And the same character in Acts chapter 2, verse 14 and 37 through 41. If you want to read all of chapter 2, 14 through 41, it's a really great set of verses and you'd really love it. But point of this exercise is to figure out what made the difference from that character from Matthew 26 to Acts chapter 2. And finally, the character in Acts chapter 9, verse 1 and 2, and Romans chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. Does that make sense? Do you understand what the homework is?
Yes.
Okay. So you're looking at 4 character studies, and you're going to look and see the difference between what happened between the first section, the first set of verses and the second set of verses. What changed to make them different, to transform them? What happened that transformed them into this new creature? If that makes sense. Are you finished with the screen?
Yes.
Okay. I can leave it there if you need it there.
No, it's okay. I think I got it.
Okay. I'm gonna stop share. Did anybody learn anything today? Did I go too fast? I had a good time studying this week about transforming. I percolated it all week long, didn't write anything down till yesterday. I had to write everything down yesterday, so trying to keep it all in order. If you jot things down, it helps when you jot things down on paper rather than in your head. I found out the older I get, the less room there is in there for, important things. Mhm.
And the verses that we have to look up, I like to write them down, first, the whole verse, and then I'll stick it in between my stuff so that I have to write it down. If I write it, I remember it. That's going to be.
Get a lot of writing this time. I look at verses and I start studying something and then I chase a rabbit. I'll find a rabbit and chase it. I might chase a rabbit for 2 days before I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta get back to where I'm supposed to be. So, all right. If we don't have anything else to share, then we'll sign off.
Okay, LaDonna. Valerie
Yes.
gave me a rock one time. She gave us all a rock. I finally got my rock revealed. It's been worn and used so much, it's my worry stone. The verse is 2 Corinthians 12:9. He wrote it on my rock, And then I didn't realize until this week that you turned it over and wrote the verse out on that rock. So I have put it in permanent ink
Mhm.
now. But look up that verse and read it.
Okay.
It's and he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Now, you only put the words that God said in Jesus said in
Mhm.
red, but on that little rock that's about that big around, it was ominous. It was just, it was so, but that's what you wrote on my rock. My grace is sufficient for thee. And see, it's on the back.
Now it's on the back of your book. Because God knew you needed that on your worry stone.
Yes.
Because your worry stone that you rub on when you worry reminds you that my grace is sufficient for you. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I know I gave you that rock a long time ago, but you know, it wasn't me. It was God knowing that you were going to need that rock.
What it means. But sometimes knowing and doing are two different things, because as soon as we set that stone down, the devil takes over. I need to put it in my mouth and eat on it a while. Yeah, chew on it, whatever, like the dog does. Yes, pushing a rock. Anyways,
I'm not down with it.
All right, we're going to sign off and we will see you next week.
Bye.